And welcome back, everybody. This is the final moment. We are here for the finals of the Pokemon 2022 Bilbao Special Event. I am Costa, and once again, for a final time, joined by the ever so lovely Mr. Jamie Boyd. And we've got a very, very spicy match ahead of us. We've got Antonio Sánchez versus Jonas Wiegel. We've got Spain trying to rush for that title versus Germany.
Yeah, defending their homeland
Defending,
from
of
this German
course.
invader of Jonas Wiegel.
Yes.
So we will see if that is going to be the case. And we have a very interesting matchup in the teams as well. We have the classic Zacian Kyogre against the Calyrex Kyogre. And I did not mention Groudon in that pairing. That means we do not have the classic Rinja Sun winning this event. We are finally putting an end to its tirade there and moving on into another restricted pairing going to be taking this title.
Exactly. The curse has been lifted, at least in Europe for now. We don't know what's going to be occurring later on in Indianapolis, but at the moment, a very, very spicy indeed battle between the Kyogres. We've seen a very big surge of these Kyogres actually going into the top 4 and then obviously proceeding on to the final. So very, very excited to actually see how this battle ensues between both of these very well-trained, very well-experienced players. We've got Antonio Sánchez, which is actually making a proper breakthrough when it comes to the actual live events, as he's actually been building up as a trainer and made a name of himself in the online scene and grassroots scene, namely. So it's very impressive to actually see him put himself to the test and be able to progress all the way through to the finals.
Absolutely, and Jonas going to be a very strong opponent as well coming out for him. Please show your support to both of these players. Please show your support for Antonio if you are supporting him, and Jonas as well if you are supporting them. We can see the support coming in for the chat now seems to be quite even. So we'll see if there's going to be any Spanish bias coming through for Antonio or if the support is going to be going for Jonas as well. But it's pretty evenly matched, which is fantastic to see for both of these players going into this final.
Oh, exactly that. And I think if you haven't been excited, which honestly there's no reason why you haven't been, because the matches today have been absolutely stellar. I've been really, really enjoying them. We've been actually seeing so many different archetypes and sort of flowcharts being unveiled as we've been trying to battle it through to the final. So I'm very curious to see what is going through the minds of both of these trainers right now.
Yeah,
how well prepped are they? How excited are they? Are they of sound mind at the moment? Because there's a lot of pressure going on right now, because both of these trainers really want to grab that title. They want to maximize essentially their efforts that they've been putting into training and building up towards this event.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can have a look at these players, how they have done so far coming into this tournament. Now, we'll start off with Antonio, like we've mentioned, are doing so well in the online scene and could potentially have a live regional championship title behind their belt after this match. So that would be fantastic to see the consistency transfer over from the online tournaments that we've had into these live tournaments. We've already seen it so far, but we're just going to see if Antonio is really able to establish that.
Yeah, and on the other side of the pendulum, we actually have Jonas Wiegel as well, going over his achievements once more. 2017 Bremen Regional Champion, Offenbach Regionals, top 16 in 2015. So he's definitely got that live experience advantage over Antonio, but at this point, it hasn't stopped. And Antonio, at this point, with the momentum he's been able to bring and catapult himself straight into the finals. So what we're going to do is we'll go straight into team preview. Everybody, check out these trainers, what they're going to be bringing, and the matchups that we're going to be encountering going into this. So just one final time, of course, to go over the 6 Pokemon that both of these trainers have decided to bring. We have Antonio on the left with the Tornadus Incarnate, the Kyogre, Incineroar, Zacian, Venusaur, and the Torkoal. Whilst over on Jonas' side, we've got the Kyogre, Calyrex Shadow Rider, Thundurus Incarnate, Landorus Therian, Rillaboom, and that Whimsicott.
Yeah, and normally when we've seen the Calyrex Kyogre pairing come out, it's usually and a very explosive, super hyper-offensive kind of team coming out. But it doesn't seem to be as explosive coming out from Jonas' side. Still very much coming out with all the damage, but it's going to have some extra supportive options. You've got some slower pace things like the Intimidator available on the Landers to slow things down. You've got the support of the Rillaboom to get some fake out and repositioning. On Antonio's side of the field, we have seen this team being utilised by Victor Medina back in the European International Championship, making top 4. Also showing it is a very strong showing here in this tournament, reaching the finals, potentially going to win it all. We will have to see what is going to happen in these games to determine what is going to be happening for these teams and who is going to be our regional champion.
And that being said, everybody, we are getting straight into the battle. Leads galore, let's find out. And we've got Jonas coming in with the Calyrex Shadow Rider and Whimsicott that we have seen him lead multiple times consecutively in this weekend's event. Whilst over on Antonio's side, actually a very reminiscent lead of past formats, the Venusaur and Torkoal.
Yeah, absolutely. So classic that it's got its own name. So, yeah, the Venusaur coming out for Antonio's side of the field. The speed advantage can very much be in Jonas' favor. You do need to quick Tailwind to outspeed that Venusaur if you are in the sunny environments like the Torkoal has set for us. But then the Torkoal is going to be able to maybe fire off some of the eruptions that it could go for. That would be massive damage. You could go for the Yawns to potentially slow things down with the Torkoal as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if we do end up seeing the Tailwind coming out from Whimsicott. You've got to be able to match that Venusaur. If you don't click Tailwind, there is just the option of Sleep Powder into that Calyrex and put a stop to any of the damage output that come that turn. That would mean that Torkoal would still remain at full HP and be able to fire off some massive fire moves, or just any of the fire moves it has access to. Maybe it's just going to be a very supportive set with only Burning Jealousy, but that would still be doing a very good amount of damage in the sun. And speaking of very good damage in the sun, it's a Pokemon that does very much like to Dynamax during that sunny environment. Venusaur is going to go for the Gigantamax here. It will be able to shrug off the attacks of that Calyrex a lot better than it would have done otherwise, and not going for the Sleep Powder here, just going for that damage.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense because you have to anticipate that Tailwind that we do actually see coming out from the Whimsicott over on Jonas' side. And we know for a fact, it's actually an Expanding Force reveal there, so not even going for the Astral Barrage, showing that if that Venusaur had not Gigantamax there, it would have been going down, and my lord, on the retaliation, we see the G-Max Vine Lash dealing so much damage onto that Calyrex, being followed up by a Burning Jealousy that honestly has dealt so much damage onto that Whimsicott. But guess what? That's part of Whimsicott's strategy. When it is carrying that eject button, it's able to go ahead, pivot itself out at the cost of being damaged during the turn, just so Jonas could capitalize off of the entirety of the Tailwind momentum that he's currently got blowing behind him.
Absolutely, and speaking of capitalizing, you can bring in one of your heavy hitters now in that Tailwind, going to be definitely outspeeding the opposing Pokemon, but it seems like that Burning Jealousy was enough in combination with the G-Max Vine Lash, so Calyrex is going to be dropping here, and I think it was very smart to bring in the Thundurus this turn. You could have ejected out into either Pokemon that you had in the back, but if it's the Kyogre waiting in the back, you would prefer the Thundurus to take that little bit of chip from the Vine Lash so that you can keep your Kyogre at full HP, because we are seeing it join the field right now, overwriting the drought from the Torkoal, and with the Tailwind, you are going to be outspeeding both of these Pokemon. The Thundurus will be able to pick up the KO on that Venusaur thanks to that chip from the Expanding Force, and the Water Spout is just going to do massive damage. The Torkoal would have to switch out and switch back in to overwrite that Drizzle, but if you switch out the Torkoal, something else has to take the full-powered Water Spout. Something like the Kyogre could be doing that. Nothing else would want to take that attack, but even the Kyogre switching in means that you're reducing your own potential Water Spouts in the future as well. So very, very strong turn one coming out from Jonas. Losing the Calyrex may not have been the most ideal situation. You'd have preferred to keep the Calyrex and the Kyogre most likely as a pair, so you can just launch off double spread move in Astral Barrage and Water Spout. But Max Airstream and Water Spout is going to be perfectly acceptable as well from this Thundurus and the Kyogre. So very, very well positioned coming out for Jonas' side of the field. It looks like Antonio does want to preserve that sun, and maybe a sacrifice here, switching in the Tornadus.
Yeah, bringing in the Tornadus right now, and we actually see the Dynamax coming out from Jonas' side, so not much of a surprise there. I do have to point out that we do have to take into consideration the speed of this Kyogre. naturally, with the max airstream, it will essentially be redundant because it's going to be giving it that +1 in speed, which may guarantee that it will outspeed this Venusaur, but the Venusaur actually goes for the max guard. So if this max airstream's going into it, no, actually we see the Kyogre, which is an indication, of course, of the Choice Scarf item being selected, and it picks up the one-hit KO onto the Tornadus. It is out for the count, and actually Max Lightning being the preferred move coming out from this Dynamax Tornadus, which unfortunately just has that one first turn of Dynamax completely unutilized there.
Yeah, that was most likely trying to catch a Kyogre that could have been switching in. That would have been the only Pokemon that would have most likely wanted to take that Water Spout if you wanted to preserve the Sun for the Torkoal, but instead opting for the Tornadus switching in there. That means that at least one of the restricted Pokemon has been left on the bench for Antonio, whether it's going to be the Zacian or the Kyogre, yet to see what that's going to be. But a very smart Max Guard on the Venusaur. There wasn't a Max Airstream that turn, there was the Max Lightning trying to cover for that potential Kyogre. But that means that the fact that the Thundurus didn't get off an Airstream that turn means that if the Torkoal is going to come back in on the field, then the Venusaur is going to be in the sunny environment again against the opposing Pokemon, and that's the position it still wants to be in. So it looks like we are seeing Torkoal join the field once again.
Yep.
We've still got the Tailwind up for Jonas' side of the field, so still going to be outspeeding the Venusaur even with that Sun. So you can still get that Max Airstream into the Venusaur. That's most likely going to be able to pick up a KO. And then if you do pick up the KO on the Venusaur, then you turn the Water Spout into a single target, but then it is in the Sun. You have taken a round of Vine Lash chip. Would that be enough to pick up the KO on the Torkoal?
Well, yeah, and I think that's the thing that you've got to consider as well, right? In this scenario, if you're Antonio, what is your best option to go for? Expecting the natural play that Thundurus can actually go for the very free max airstreams, maybe even get the max lightning up so it could negate any sort of yawn interactions going into the Kyogre. An attempt from Antonio to actually slow down Jonas's very high offensive momentum pace going on. And talking about Jonas, we actually see the switch out of the Kyogre in order to preserve the weather change for future turns, and the max airstream comes out from the Thundurus, procs the Cobra Berry on the Venusaur. Will it survive?
Oh.
It does not, unfortunately, for Antonio's side, hoping that the reduction of the damage essentially being halved in that situation due to the Cobra Berry and the flying type interaction would be enough, but unfortunately for himself it is not, which of course does mean that the Torkoal is still free to go for the Yawn, and it has targeted the Thundurus in this scenario, which whether there be Max Lightning or Electric Terrain, should I say, on the field or not, it is a flying type. It will be unaffected by it, so it will be going to sleep unless it either A, has a Lumberry, or B, it switches out to Kyogre.
It's going to sleep next turn is the key thing. That means it's going to be able to use one more turn of its Dynamax moves. If you'd have gone for the Burning Jealousy there, that would have KO'd the Whimsicott on the switch in, and it would have burned the Thundurus because it got that speed boost from the Airstream. But now you get to bring in the Kyogre, so Zacian was left on the bench for Antonio going into this game. Now the Kyogre is going to be able to join the field. But the crucial thing is that the Yawn will happen next turn. You get to go for a Max Lightning into this Kyogre before your Thundurus goes to sleep, and then that's going to be a really good amount of damage into the opposing Kyogre. You'll get to bring in your own Kyogre in the rain, guaranteed at this point, because Torkoal can't switch out anymore and overwrite that rain. You'll get to go for a Water Spout, and in the rain that's KOing the Torkoal for sure. It's just whether the Kyogre on Antonio's side of the field would be put low enough, maybe if it goes for Protect, to whether the Max Lightning that could come out from the opposing Thundurus, would the Kyogre, which would have to lock into a move, be enough to be able to break through the opposing Kyogre. But a good way of doing extra damage here is that helping hand. So even through going through this Protect of the Kyogre, most likely the Max Lightning to get as much damage as possible, as we are seeing. This is going to hurt the Kyogre.
It's going to hurt the Kyogre even behind the Protect. My lord, that was a lot of damage. Over half of Kyogre's HP, even with the 1/4 reduction there due to the Protect coming out from the Kyogre. So the Electric Terrain has been set, the Life Orb chipping away due to the recoil from using that, and we see the Body Press not quite enough to pick up the KO on Whimsicott, as the Vine Lash of course does not affect Whimsicott due to the grass typing, and of course due to the previous Yawn, we see that now the Thundurus has been put to sleep, and this means that it is guaranteed to sleep at least in the subsequent turn.
Yeah, and going for the Body Press into the Whimsicott doesn't give that switch into the Kyogre to allow you to just go for Water Spout and KO the Torkoal at this point. So very nicely done there with the Torkoal, and now you don't have to contend with it. The Thunderous, at least this turn, your Kyogre is free to do what it wants.
Yep.
We'll have to see if there is an Energy Ball on that Whimsicott. If it's a Moonblast, that wouldn't be enough. If it's Energy Ball, that's probably going to be quite close if it is enough to KO the Kyogre. And if you have dealt with the Kyogre with your own in the back, you get to just immediately take care of the Torkoal. So you just really need just any extra damage in this Kyogre. If it's put into Water Spout range of the Choice Scarf Kyogre waiting in the back for Jonas, then that is going to be the game over there. And it is the Energy Ball instead of the Moonblast. That should be enough to deal with this Kyogre, and then Torkoal can be dealt with whenever the Kyogre wants to join the field now.
Exactly that, and I think I did really like the fact that the electric terrain was set up in case Jonas may need to utilize the Thunder from a Kyogre. If it is carrying it, of course, in the back, you'll be able to further take advantage and utilize the rain that's present for another 3 turns, and also the damage increase from that electric terrain to further boost it. So in this scenario, I agree, Jamie. I think that the Torkoal, unfortunately, it seems like it has met its match at least in this game 1. So Antonio's really going to have to go back to the scratch board and see how he's going to have to try to deal with this sort of high offensive play that we've been seeing coming out from Jonas. Set up the Tailwind, make sure that you have a free switch at some point, whether that be having a KO from the Calyrex Shadow Rider or eject button. Utilize from the Whimsicott, allowing that occasion to occur. But the Calyrex is quite interesting because normally it is mainly brought for a mid to end game sweeper. We've actually been seeing it consistently led as a lead naturally, and just going either A for the very good damage, whether that be from Expanding Force, Astral Barrage, just basically something that can try to open up the room for the Dynamax user in the back.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's interesting seeing Expanding Force coming out from the Calyrex, given that there is no Psychic Terrain setter naturally. Of course, the Calyrex can do it itself if it goes for the Dynamax, but you also make use of opposing DDs. But if it was Astral Barrage in that first turn, Venusaur would have not been put in range, most likely of the Airstream that came out in the future because of that Cobra Berry. So the fact that there was Expanding Force that did over half damage to the Venusaur, that was very crucial going forward. And that was the only move that the Calyrex managed to go for. Usually it wants to just spam the Astral Barrages, but just one solid attack into the Dynamax Pokemon, putting it in range of your own max move, was very crucial, and very forward thinking from Jonas as well. Even though that the Calyrex was just sacrificed, they knew that the Thunderous and the Kyogre would have been enough to take the rest of this game. So you can see the players are going to be thinking through their strategies there. The Torkoal buying some more time with the Protect. Of course, this is the final. You want to make sure that your game plan is as solid as possible. So absolutely take as much time as you need to try and think about what you are going to do, because Antonio may need to make some adjustments here going into this game too, because Jonas was able to position themselves very well in that first turn. The eject button was very killer, so you do need to avoid ejecting out into 2 very heavy hitters. If you allow the Whimsicott to stay on the field, that's not going to be doing too much damage.
No, it's really not, and I think it's kind of going back to what you're saying. I think you need, if you're Antonio, you need to try to find a way to slow down that momentum. Slow down, maybe stall out the Tailwind turns, or at least don't allow Jonas to be able to have that immediate pressure on the field, namely being that Thunderous Life Orb boosted as well. We know it's not playing around at all. It is a very big threat that needs to be addressed, and it just goes for either the Airstreams, or it can threaten with the Max Lightning to get that electric terrain set up and kind of cause issues for Torkoal in this scenario. And you're going to have to be able to try to find a way to maybe just bide your time as much as possible. It's quite tough because the Venusaur lead makes sense, but then you have to always force the Dynamax if you want to survive, because we saw that Calyrex is not playing around at all. It basically 2-hit KO'd that G-Max Venusaur as if it was nothing. It just utilized that stab, the same type attack bonus that it gets due to using it, and it's a very big threat. You need to try to slow the pace down.
Well, the fact that it 2-shots the Venusaur means that it will OHKO if it doesn't go for the Dynamax. So you don't have the option of just going for Sleep Powder to try and weather the storm, because Tailwind's going to be set up, Calyrex will outspeed you, therefore you must Dynamax to survive if you led with the Venusaur. And then the fact that it takes so much damage, we saw, put it in range of the Thunderous going for the max Airstream, so that is very detrimental for that Venusaur. You can very much lead with the Venusaur, maybe not with the Torkoal this time. The fact that the Whimsicott gives the speed control over to Jonas' side of the field means that you don't effectively need the Chlorophyll anymore, because the Venusaur is not going to be outspeeding things if Tailwind is clicked. So you can go with the Venusaur, and a partner that can threaten down the Calyrex a little bit more, because the Torkoal, it was very passive. The Burning Jealousy was enough in combination with the Vine Lash and the extra chip from the Vine Lash to KO the Calyrex, but it wasn't strong enough to just KO the Whimsicott.
No.
It gave the free switch in with that eject button with just the Burning Jealousy, so may need an adjustment there from the Torkoal.
Would you see a Tornadus being a lead and a potential venue that Antonio can take? You know, kind of try to like meet Jonas with a Tailwind sort of pressure and maybe bring in a ladder Sun mode to maybe kind of counteract the speed control that was mainly in Jonas'
We did see
favor.
Tornadus was brought to the match, but it was just a sacrifice.
It
because
was,
something had to take the water spout, and it ended
Exactly.
up being the Tornadus.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you just leave with the Tornadus, you can immediately match the Tailwind coming out from the Whimsicott. So that is what we're seeing, and immediately coming out for Jonas' side of the field. Whimsicott and Calyrex worked very well for him in that first game, and we are seeing that switch up to the Tornadus and Incineroar coming out for Antonio's side of the field. So now you do have the potential of going for a fake out into the Whimsicott. We know it's eject button, so that means that you will eject it out, and you can set your own Tailwind. They will have to set their Tailwind in the future.
A great adjustment from Antonio, and we see that at least now we've identified, even from earlier yesterday, for example, on stream, that Jonas really likes leading with Calyrex, Shadow Rider, and Whimsicott. So just being able to take advantage of that insight and information, you're able to construct a better battle plan going into this, and that's exactly what Antonio's done. He has a couple of venues, like you said, he could force the eject button, which will essentially get rid of Whimsicott for now from setting up Tailwind, and kind of enforce your own speed control. And we don't even know what the item is on this Tornadus. At least we know it is not Focus Sash, because it went immediately down to that water spout in game 1.
Yeah, I think we've seen in previous games it was the Life Orb variant of the Tornadus, because it was doing some massive damage when it was going for the Dynamax. So yeah, like we are seeing the fake out go into the Whimsicott, so that is going to activate that eject button. That means that the speed control can go on Antonio's side of the field, at least for the foreseeable future. It gives you the speed advantage on this turn if you click the Tailwind, and then they will have to match it in the future. So that is usually slightly detrimental. You usually want to be trying to match the Tailwind after the opponent, but if you need the speed control immediately, you want to try and push that advantage while you have it, and then when they set the Tailwind up in the future, then you've gained too much momentum for them to come back for it. So this seems to be what Antonio is going for here, stopping that Tailwind, ejecting that Whimsicott back out into that Kyogre that is switching in, and try and get your own speed control.
I'm a bit scared that Jonas might actually go for the outlier play of setting up Trick Room if he has it on that Calyrex Shadow Rider, which may be a way to counter Antonio's players. We do see the Tailwind coming up, but no Trick Room being set up here, just going for the damage. Astral Barrage is going to deal substantial amount of damage onto that Tornadus, leaving it with 35 hit points. And the Incineroar, respectable chip damage, but no speed control for Jonas may spell trouble for him, as that is what his main strategy has been so far, being able to bring himself through to the finals.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very interesting to see the speed on the Incineroar, I think, because the Tailwind has been set. Incineroar can be trained to outspeed a Calyrex. They are not often trained to outspeed a Calyrex, but if this one is, you get the option of going for a double up into the Calyrex to take care of it. And the Hurricane is going to be coming out from the Tornadus. No Dynamax coming out from either player here, and you can see the power of that Life Orb. That's almost a 2-shot on the Kyogre, even with its massive special defense. But of course, with that Choice Scarf, it doesn't matter if the Incineroar was fast enough to outspeed the opposing Calyrex. Choice Scarf's going to push that Kyogre even further, outspeed the Incineroar, and gets the double KO with that Origin Pulse. So a very nice play there. And like you mentioned, it didn't have to be immediately matching that Tailwind on the turn it was set. You can, of course, set up that Trick Room to counter that Tailwind now. So a very strong play there coming out from Jonas.
It was a lovely little pin that Jonas had there, because he forced this scenario where the Tornadus, unless it is going for the max airstream or Dynamaxing, and it is trying to pick up a KO and somehow allow the Incineroar to be a +1 if it is trying to do so within Tailwind, of course, pick up the KO on that Calyrex, and then force essentially Jonas's hand there. But Jonas was allowed that availability to go for the Trick Room right now, so this is very awkward for Antonio, even if Jonas does have the Choice Scarf on his Kyogre.
Yeah, this is a phenomenal position for Jonas. 2 turns of Tailwinds means that the Kyogre and the Calyrex, which would normally outspeed both the Kyogre and the Zacian, especially with the Choice Scarf, should now underspeed and move first. So that is exactly what you want to be doing, and a really, really strong setting of the Trick Room there. And now you can just effectively launch off an Astral Barrage and potentially a Dynamax coming from the Kyogre. You can still go for the Origin Pulse. It is that risky accuracy. If you connect with Astral Barrage and Origin Pulse into Zacian, that combination will KO. So maybe you do go for the Dynamax on the Kyogre and guarantee that damage into the Zacian, because then you don't even need to worry about the extra chip from the Astral Barrage. You can just KO with Max Geyser as well, and maybe survive any of the attacks that is coming up from the opposing Kyogre, which does need to be going for the Dynamax here for Antonio's side of the field. And like we can see, even with the faster Pokemon, Jonas is going for that Dynamax first before Antonio, so I wouldn't be surprised if that is going to be that Kyogre. You can break the choice lock of the choice scarf. It also puts you slower without that choice scarf, because now it's not benefiting from that. It is guaranteed to move first before these Pokemon.
Exactly, because it does nullify the speed boost provided by the Choice Scarf. So we are actually going to be seeing Antonio go for his own Dynamax. He kind of has to at this point, Jamie, because he has been put into a scenario where, yes, he got the Tailwind up, but right now he is still at a speed disadvantage due to that Trick Room. So he's going to have to be able to play very, very smartly and prioritize correctly and anticipate whether Jonas might be going for any sort of max guards or not. But no max guard from Jonas, just a max lightning, not dealing as much of damage as we would have actually expected, even if it is a super effective move there via the electrotyping. It's still Dynamax Kyogre. It may even be a bulky one, but we do see the Astral Barrage coming out, dealing very respectable damage, especially onto that Zacian. And we see the counterplay of Antonio's Kyogre going and dropping that Calyrex Shadow Rider straight down to its Focus Sash and its singular hit point, whilst the Zacian is just within range to get itself a substitute set up.
Yeah, very nicely played for Antonio. There was the option of just going for Max Geyser and Astral Barrage into the Zacian. That would have been a KO and would have been the title for Jonas, but then there is going to be another turn for this Zacian, because it is able to get that substitute, able to weather one more turn of the Tailwind that has been set up for itself, and then hopefully underspeed both of these Pokemon. Although the Kyogre has broken its own Choice Scarf, it will still underspeed the Zacian in the final turns of the Trick Room as well. So it is still very much in Jonas's favor. Antonio has taken so much damage down to their final two Pokemon and still in the Tailwind for this final turn. You can just go for a Max Lightning and an Astral Barrage. That would KO the Kyogre, and that would break the substitute of the Zacian as well. It's forced to protect it if it wants to try and break through, get through its final turns of Tailwind. Yeah,
it really is, but no Protect, or Max Guard, should I say, coming out from Antonio's Kyogre. We are going to be seeing Jonas's Kyogre move first, target down that substitute. Does it break that substitute? Whoa!
Yes, it will.
Oh, yes, it will indeed. Through the Protect. Quite unfortunate. We're not sure it is powered by... or actually, it's not powered by Life Orb, so we're a bit unsure, even though it is within the Rain, if it would have, apologies, been able to. But we are going to be seeing Astral Barrage going down, chipping away at Antonio's Kyogre, not being able to finish off the job, unlike what that Kyogre just did over onto that Calyrex slot.
Yeah, so now you have used up your own turns of Tailwind, so your Kyogre on Antonio's side of the field should now be, you would assume, going first before this Choice Scarf variant of the Kyogre. And the Thunderous is joining the field as well. That's going to underspeed the Zacian also. So now you can just double up into the Zacian. It has protected. It would have to go for a double protect if it wants to survive that. And that's even if it would be able to survive a Max Geyser coming out, because we still, well, at least the critical hit broke the substitute. Usually a Zacian would drop to a regular Max Geyser. So the substitute probably would still have broken in that regard. But the fact that the substitute is broken means that even if the Zacian protects, a Max Geyser would still finish off that Zacian, and then you've just got your really, really low HP Kyogre to try and break through the rest of 3 Pokemon here. So you really need to make use of your own Kyogre's last turn of Dynamax here for Antonio. You can probably KO the Thunderous with your Max Geyser coming out, but not going to be any offensive pressure coming out here. Max Guard coming out, and a failed double protect means that this Max Geyser coming out from the Kyogre is going to launch off into this Zacian. That is going to take the KO on that Zacian. Now you are left with just a very, very low HP Kyogre that does have to deal with this Wild Charge that could come out from this Thunderous. It has to deal with the onslaught of the attacks that come out from the Kyogre. And even for good measure, there's still the Whimsicott waiting in the back that could easily Energy Ball this Kyogre. So a fantastic showing for Jonas here. We will be going through these final turns, but he is in a fantastic position to take his 2nd regional championship.
and what kind of way he's able to actually go ahead and do it. Let's not forget, everybody, this is still a choice Scarf Kyogre that Jonas has, and he's been able to pilot it so well under Trick Room conditions. It is so cool to see the kind of spread and of tactics where you're able to completely utilize whether that be a very fast mode or slow mode if your opponent has a very fast mode too, to kind of meet it as well. So Origin Pulse comes out, as we did see the Thunderous go for the Protect there. Not enough to pick up any sort of KO onto Jonas's Kyogre. And talking about that Kyogre, it goes for an Origin Pulse, single target into Antonio's Kyogre, and that is it, everybody. We have your new Bilbao Special Event champion, Jonas Wiegel, and what kind of way he was able to go ahead and accomplish that. So commiserations to Antonio, but my lord, what a set and what a showing.
Yeah, fantastic showing from Jonas. Unfortunately for Spain, they could not defend. Germany have won this Spanish special event. Congratulations to Jonas. A fantastic showing of how effective speed control can be.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have expected a Calyrex and a Choice Scarf Kyogre to thrive under Trick Room. But the fact that Tailwind was set on from the Tornadus and you didn't set it on the Whimsicott gave you that opportunity. Usually that Calyrex, the Focus Sash variety, we've seen already in the previous streams, it was the Imprison Trick Room variant.
Yes.
You need Trick Room to be able to imprison. Therefore, if your opponent goes to the Tailwind, you can Trick Room yourself and get into that, get the speed control for yourself. We saw a masterclass of that coming out from Jonas there.
We really did, because it's just mind games galore at that point. You're well aware, if you're Antonio, what that Calyrex does, as, like you said, we've seen it on stream multiple times right now, and just being able to just go ahead and get stuck with it and thought, okay, will they just go for the damage? Will they try to go for the Trick Room or not? I'm not sure. And unfortunately, I think that turned to Antonio kind of went for a middle play there. He was hoping that somehow the Trick Room may have not been set. But from me personally, I feel like maybe a max airstream into that slot may have helped somehow. It all depends on the training, of course, on the Incineroar, right?
The Tornadus have taken so much damage at that point.
It's
always a risky play to Dynamax such low HP Pokemon, but it made, like, obviously hindsight and all that, but a max airstream could have put that Incineroar faster than the Choice Scarf Kyogre, and then the double up would, of course, KO the Calyrex. But then you are still taking Origin Pulse. You sacrifice your Tornadus to the Origin Pulse and the Incineroar as well. Both would have been KO'd in return for just stopping Trick Room. So would you have been able to sweep through the rest of the turns? Maybe when your Tailwind, Zacian and Kyogre could have done it, but then you wouldn't have had access to the Dynamax Kyogre, and that could have been a bit more awkward there. So, I would say that Jonas almost had Antonio pinned from that very first turn.
I agree. Yeah, I do think it was a very tough pin to get out of, because you've just got the duality of those modes like we've already spoken about, and just being able to see it in action like that is just so detrimental, and it's just so strong as well. What a strong showing, both from the team capabilities, but as well as Jonas piloting it and knowing exactly how to go about it, like understanding the flowcharts, understanding the couch, and saying, you know what, I'm just going to be able to go with this set amount of like strategies and turns, and that will lead me to victory. And that is exactly what we saw.
Yeah, victory for your new special event champion, Jonas Wiegel, who we will be interviewing very shortly after we cut to this very short break. So stay tuned for some words from our new champion.
And welcome back, everybody. We are here with your champion of the Pokemon 2022 Bilbao Special Event for VG. Jonas, my friend, what an amazing display of high echelon, top style playing from a trainer such as yourself. You've been able to show such good understanding of the game, of the flowcharts, of the matchup. And my lord, you did it so well. So huge congratulations.
Thank a lot. Thank a lot. I'm just over the moon. Honestly, after winning Bremen in 2017, I thought I was basically past my zenith. So to do it again just feels amazing.
I mean, there you go. You've already pushed past and, brought yourself into form. I believe you had come with another 3 German players, right? That's what we were talking about yesterday on stream.
Yes.
And in a tournament where you have over than 220 players and you're able to reach the moment, even though there was a lot of inner turmoils, you ran into each other quite a few times, didn't you? Like every time, basically. And being able to just fall your way straight through into the finals in such a manner as well has been very impressive. Did you think you could do it? Did you believe in yourself? You must have, right?
I mean, as soon as I won semis, I was thinking I could do it.
Yeah.
But I guess you never know. It's like, as I said, one game after a time.
Yeah.
I don't like to think too far ahead because then I get into my head.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I was in finals, I thought I can win. Yeah.
Mate, that's it. And it showed. It really, really showed. We saw in game one how, for example, you started off essentially with the same lead both times, didn't you? So you went for the Caloric Shadow Rider, Whimsicott sort of lead. You feel very comfortable with that lead. That's what we've noticed as well, and Jeremy and I were talking about it too.
Yes.
Because you got a lot of options, and primarily I think it's the item choice on both of those two Pokemon that make you feel so comfortable. You got the Focus Sash on the Caloric Shadow Rider, escorted by a Trick Room and Imprison, of course, for your Trick Room matchups. Then you got the eject button on the Whimsicott. So you're able to just essentially force momentum in your play regardless, right?
Exactly. That is the reason why this duo is so great. And also, like, for example, in game one, my logic was, okay, I know that he has Cobra Berry on Venusaur. So if I lead Thundurus, I can't really one-shot it. So my thought going in was, I can just chip it with the Expanding Force. He might not even know about it or expect it. If he doesn't Dynamax, the Venusaur probably goes down immediately.
Yeah.
If it Dynamax, it takes half of its life. Then I can bring in Thundurus from the back and just KO it, even like through the Cobra Berry, basically.
Yeah. And I mean, it just put it within range, right? It was just essentially a one-hit KO, it seemed, without Dynamax. So just being able to go and two-shot it within Gmax must have given you such momentum, and that's essentially what we saw.
Honestly, I didn't know about this exact calc, but as you said, looks like it was,
And then, of course, we've got game two, where you were quite literally able to turn the game on its head, and you went for the Trick Room play. And did you feel that had to be the opportunity you expected, Antonio, to kind of go for kind of speed control on his side as well, right? He did bring the Tornadus in game one. Unfortunately, it just got wiped out, quite literally, from a Water Spout from the Tyoga. So being able to lead at game two makes sense. You want to try to like force Tailwind on your side, but you're like, you know what? That's the beautiful thing about Caloric Shadow Rider and Whimsicott as a lead. I've got Tailwind and potential Trick Room.
Exactly. Like the name of the game was Speed Control in this matchup.
Yes.
And basically his lead denied my Tailwind. So my thought process was, okay, I could either bring in Thundurus and try to catch up with Max Airstreams, but I probably won't come into the position again where I'm the fastest. So I thought, okay, why not reverse the speeds, right? And this is the cool thing about Imprison Calyrex, that sometimes you can click Trick Room yourself.
Yes.
Especially if the opponent uses Tailwind.
And Dynamax your Choice Scarf Kyogre to nullify the speed control boost,
yes,
right?
Exactly. That was exactly what I wanted to do when I clicked Trick Room.
Yeah, because I did notice that your Kyogre seemed to be outspeeding every time once in Dynamax. Is that maybe an indication of the nature chosen?
Could be.
Oh!
Yeah, it is.
Trying to get an exclusive here with you for it.
I mean, I guess it's no secret at this point that it's timid max speed. And Choice Scarf, obviously. Yeah.
Obviously, it makes a lot of sense, right? You want to be able to hit those speed markings, the speed benchmarks, don't you?
Exactly.
So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Once again, my lord, huge congratulations for the phenomenal progress.
Thank you.
You have been able to establish here and be crowned the special event champion. Commiserations, of course, to Antonio Sánchez. He honestly showed such phenomenal play from his side too. It was a very worthy finalist opponent, of course, to crown you in the way that it's occurred. So I did want to say, do you have any special shout-outs that you want to be able to go ahead and pass over?
I can just repeat myself. Shout-outs to all the German players who helped me prepare. Shout-outs to my friends that are here with me, and shout-outs to my friends back home. That's it, basically.
Very humble. My lord, very humble. We've got the special event champion of 2022 for VG. From my side, just to close out the show, of course, I do want to give huge props to all of Victory Road for the streaming quality production they have been able to provide, of course, for bringing myself and the other lovely casters here, which have done an exceptional job to be able to provide this footage all straight to you. There were quite a few technical issues at some points, but they've been able to persevere. So huge shout outs, of course, for that reason as well, to the trainers. The trainers have been able to try to be patient as well and be quite understanding. So it's really, really heartwarming to be able to see that too. And then finally, special shout outs to both Jokmok and the judges, all of the judge staff team, for being able to provide us such a very solid and straightforward event. They make it very, very easy for everybody. And once again, it's a well-oiled steam machine that we're all very grateful for. And finally, a shout out to everybody at home for viewing. So thank you, everybody, so much from the bottom of our hearts. We'll be signing out for now. And of course, please tune in to Indianapolis Regional occurring later on, if not already. Thank you from everybody and have a lovely week.